Hey everybody, I'm Tara from Crooked Row, and today we're going to talk a little bit about no-till gardening. I had a question in the comments the other day where they were kind of telling us that we needed to till for our potatoes, our potato rows. And I kind of wanted to address this also to why we don't use a tiller. We have a tiller, and for the first 3 years that we gardened, we actually used a tiller in every single row. We did normal tilling gardening, and by the 3rd year we went out to go plant something with a shovel, and we were actually like bouncing on our shovels. The ground lost all its fertility, all its softness, all its moisture. It was like this really light colored brown. So we started looking into, you know, why was this happening? What could we do about it? And that's when we stumbled upon Back to Eden gardening. And I know that's not for everyone, but it certainly is for us. And we went ahead and we laid out cardboard in the fall. And sometimes we put chicken manure on top of it or underneath it, but we definitely do this like layering effect, and sometimes we put leaves on it. But in the fall, I definitely think that the wood chips work the best because there's more weight to it, and you do it like really thick, like 4 inches. The first year we didn't see a ton of results other than it suppressed the weeds really good. And by the 3rd year of us doing the Back to Eden method, we had deep, rich soil. And I want to explain that just a little bit. So one thing that it does do, I mean, I don't know all the science behind it, but one thing that it does do is it brings the microorganisms back. And so you're gonna see like that thin, almost lacy looking, I don't think it's, yeah, it's fungi back into your soil, and you want that, and you want the worms in, and you want things, you want like a whole city kind of underneath your feet. And so we definitely noticed that that started. By year 4, we had beautiful, beautiful hummus-like. Now, I do want to say that in certain parts of the garden, it was still kind of clayish. I don't know why that is. I would probably, in those areas, I don't plant a whole lot, but I would, if I was going to think about planting in those areas, I would probably use some gypsum. But the point is that we like to use a shovel. If we have to turn over somewhere, I like to use a shovel because we are much more careful with a shovel so that we can not kill the worms. And I saw firsthand in our garden anyway, just how important that was. And so I raise worms, not to put in the garden, but for, vermicomposting, worm castings. and we make our own compost here and stuff. But I think that it's so important to, at the very least, like I've seen people do Back to Eden gardening different ways, and there are different ways to do it. You don't all have to do it the same. It depends on what your soils need, what your needs are. You may need something right off the bat. And so some people feel like they need to till that first year. I understand. Sometimes it's just rock hard and you don't have a year or 2 to get your soil ready. If you have a year or 2 to get your soil ready, go ahead and right now just wet cardboard in the area that you want, pour tons of wood chips on it, and let the insects and the fungi and all that stuff do all the work for you. It's a wonderful option. But so I wanted to address that, and I wanted to address that we try to cover, once we actually have a plant up that's kind of nice and established, we try to cover that with, I like to reutilize, I don't like to use cardboard around my plants because I feel like they can slip and kind of injure. And I have kids in my garden, so that is actually an issue. But so I like to use the Aldi paper bags, and I just wet those down. and then I put them around the plants, and then we just cover those in wood chips or you know, chopped up leaves or just whatever mulch you have, because who has time to weed a half an acre garden? We don't. We have too much going on. There's too much. So I wanted to take you along as we go ahead. Elijah and I and maybe Jed are gonna go ahead and we're gonna cover. We planted last night, we planted cauliflower and broccoli, and so we're gonna go ahead and we're going to show you how we cover that and then mulch it. So let's get started. Okay, here is our 5-gallon bucket full of water, and here is an Aldi bag. You can see the handle, and we're just gonna put that in. Okay, and now I'm gonna place it around the plants. They are nice and mulched, and this will help us a lot with the weeds. Well, there you have it. We went ahead and we mulched all of that. One thing I wanted to point out of why I wet it is just to kind of keep a wet medium going throughout the bed. And so you do want to make sure that there is a consistent moisture. I mean, I think that wood chips would eventually do that, especially if you're in an area that's going to rain like ours is. So I think that this is not only just for weed suppression, but also helps keep the moisture in. So that is so important, especially if you have a dry area. You're definitely going to want to do something like this. I know that again, you can use leaves, you can do the wood chips. They're both really, really good. All the animals are talking to us right now. Let me show you. So I know that there are different methods that you can use. I know that some people use the lasagna planting method. Whatever method that you have, I mean, this really, really works for us. It helps suppress the weeds. It doesn't, I also want to clear up, like, it doesn't mean that you won't have weeds. And we have the kind of soil, we have good soil, so if a weed seed gets in it, it's going to grow well. I mean, because we have good soil. So it doesn't keep you from weeding. Now, it does make it a lot easier to pull those weeds because they have to grow through that mulch first. So like, if they grow through the mulch first, then that kind of like weakens the stem, and you can just, I mean, it's so fast to pull them out. I absolutely love this method for us. And so we do this in every row that we do. We try to always put the Aldi bag stuff on it, or or something, it helps suppress it better, and it actually keeps it more moist better. Not overly moist. I mean, clearly you can rot out things. You don't want to rot out your roots. So, but anyway, that's how we do it. That's how we're gonna do it for the rest of the season. The only row that we don't really do this with is our potato rows, and that's because we hill up the potatoes. I mean, eventually we're gonna try to put like a mulch over it for the rest of the season once it's been hilled twice. So after that, we try to utilize mulch or compost or something to put over those hills. There's just so many of them. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how we do it. Let me know in the comments below how you do it. How do you keep the weed suppression? If you till, let us know how you keep the fertility in your garden. We lost all fertility, and so I'm always curious how people who till keep their fertility in there. I know a lot of people just really hit it with a lot of fertilizer and things like that. I'm also trying to create a whole little world underneath so that we have good soil regardless. I mean, if we're planting or not, I kind of do this everywhere. I try to make sure that something is covering that ground. We try not to ever have bare ground. And I did want to give a slight word of warning. We did use the black tarp, and black tarp works. I mean, it actually works really well. But I feel like when you use black tarp alone, it actually creates some bad things. Like, again, this is for us, this was our experience, but we had used black tarp, and then when we pulled it up, we went from beautiful, dark, almost black soil to almost this mustard color, like a deep Dijon mustard color. And it was very hard soil. So we took a year and we just covered it in cardboard and lots of leaves. Some of it we covered in wood chips also. But we had to build that soil back. So now, like, I have our garlic in that. I just know that there's like that one strip that we do that in, and I'm really even second guessing that. If I'm going to utilize black tarp at all, I'll use black tarp in walkways. I think it's fantastic in walkways. Using black tarp within your gardening, again, it works. It suppresses weeds, and definitely for the first year it suppresses weeds, but I feel like your soil kind of takes a hit with it. So I also kind of like, it was very tedious for me to work within those little holes. Now it's not so much with like a bulb like garlic, but like we did it in our green bean row, and once we had done it in the green bean row, then the weeding just where that hole is became tedious. And so I just ended up saying, wouldn't it be easier to not have this and mulch it and just like randomly pull weeds? And that was the case for us. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there. And again, if you have tell us how you do yours. Tell us if you're using mulch, if you till between your rows, and what you do to kind of help your soil fertility, anything. I love to hear from you guys. We had a lot of comments last week, and I loved it, and I loved responding to them. I loved reading them. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate that you like our videos and you watch them, and that you comment on them. It means a lot to us. So remember, if we can back to Eden our garden, anybody can. Thanks. Bye.